This video is actually in honor of my grandfather. He really loves fountain pens, so today I figured I'd show you sort of some of my fountain pen care and maintenance. This fountain pen actually he gave to me, so it's a really cool way to sort of connect with my grandfather. And I use it every single night. I use it to write in my diary. And I know that I started doing this a year ago because the blue ink that's in that pen was a year ago. So I used this ink. I started using this ink 1 year ago, and it makes it really easy to tell what year I'm on as I'm writing this. So I figured this year, because my pen ran out, I'm gonna switch over to a different color. So this notebook my aunt gave me, this is like a family affair, this whole video. And it's this really lovely notebook that's really good for fountain pen. So I was planning on using it to show you that this fountain pen is empty. But last night I dipped it in just so I could write the night, before I went to sleep. And to my surprise, ink came out when I was recording this video. So you can see me being a little bit confused here. I'm like, huh? That's not supposed to work. But I get some paper towel and I figure there's just a little bit of excess on the nib. I try to wipe it off. There's a lot coming off the nib, and suddenly I am very confused. I'm like, wait, did I make a mistake last night thinking my pen was empty? But it's not pooling like it should have if the pen still had ink left in it. So I figure this is just, there's a lot of ink left on the nib for whatever reason. It's still writing really beautifully. It's a really nice pen, but when I open it up, you can see there's no ink in the cartridge. So I'm just gonna clean it off a little bit more. It's still writing, which is kind of annoying, but that's fine. I can empty it out in a minute. So aside from the blue ink that I've been using for the past year, I have 3 colors of ink. I have this greenish color, which is really nice and lovely, and I might actually use this. I have this brownish, but I don't really want to use this one because I've used it on a couple of pages in the past, and I have this new reddish color. It's called Writer's Blood, and I just love the packaging of this ink so much. My grandpa just gave it to me, and it is so pretty. I'm not saying that I'm going to use it because the packaging is so pretty, but I might. And I decided that I wanted to test out the colors on the paper so that I could see them next to each other and compare and see which one I wanted to use this year. Now, if I were to just dip that pen nib in the inks, I would get a whole muddled mess and I wouldn't be able to see the colors. But I do have a couple of empty fountain pens because according to my grandpa, you're supposed to store them empty. So I decided that I was going to use them to test that. I'm going to use this green one to test the green ink. That's cute, isn't it? And I'm going to use the marble-ish one to test the red ink. And I'm going to do this by dipping. Because I don't feel like filling up the fountain pens all the way and then having to empty them again, and that would just waste a bunch of ink and take a whole lot of time. So I just dip the nib in, it'll pick up the ink, and then I can write with it for a little bit. Obviously using a cartridge is better in the long term because you don't have to do this like every night and run the risk of getting ink all over your fingers, as I think I did at some point of this video. But that's the green ink. It's this really lovely bluish green. It's a lot more blue than the packaging would suggest, but it is a really, really lovely color. And I'm going to use the exact same process to test out the Writer's Blood ink. Dip the pen in and then just write with it as you would a normal fountain pen. This color it's sort of a brownish red, and it's really, really, really nice. And it does look alarmingly like blood. I've spilled a couple drops on my hand before, and I have freaked myself out because I'm like, wait, when did I get cut? I didn't. It's just the ink looks a lot like sort of semi-dried blood. So it's a very apt name. And when I looked over all of my colors like this, I decided that the one I want to use this year is the Writer's Blood ink. So the next step is to obviously clean out the ink cartridge so that there's no blue ink interfering with the color of the new ink. And I have a process for doing this that requires like a little cup, and basically I just fill the cartridge with some water, some just clean water, and then push it back out again, and you do this a couple times to flush it through. The only thing was that it is very pretty when the ink is coming out of the cartridge, and I wanted to show you that. And the cup that I was using is just this giant, like, leftover boba cup, so it was not being pretty. So I used a discarded face wash container to do this instead. The effect was much better, but, like, that's why it looked a little funky in the beginning, because I was still figuring out the process behind recording this. And also there's still some face wash left in the container, which is why it's bubbly, and I'm trying to, like, get that to not happen. So in the end, I flushed out the pen, and everything was okay. But it did take a hot sec to get there. And here comes the magic bit, which is where I rinse off the pen nib, and you can see all of that blue just dripping down, and it looks so beautiful. This is what I wanted to show you guys. And I know it looks like there's like a lot of ink that I'm wasting right now. It's not, it's just like a couple of little drops, but the ink is very pigmented, which is why it makes it so dark. And then to fully flush out the pen, my grandpa uses these eyedroppers with the nib cut off, and you just attach the pen nib to the eyedropper and squirt all the ink out through the water in the eyedropper. As you can see from my hands, this is a pretty messy process. Luckily, the ink is water soluble, so it does not stain my sink, but it does stain my hands quite a bit. But that's fine. It does wash off pretty quickly. And then, since everything's set up and I've already got stained hands from one color of ink, I figured just clean off all the pens in one go. So this one, usually the cartridge detaches from the back of the fountain pen. The cartridge might detach for this one, being perfectly honest, I don't know. But I didn't feel like forcing it and breaking the pen, so I figured that I would just use the flushing method, which works just as well, honestly. So we fill up the bottle again, we stick it in, and we just flush it through the cartridge. And she didn't have a ton of ink in her, because I just dipped the nib real quick, but I do like to flush them twice, just to make sure that everything's nice and clean and nothing can gum up the pen while it's resting. And for this pen, I do know that the nib detaches from this one because I remember cleaning it last time. But honestly, I couldn't be bothered, so I just cleaned it using the flushing method. And now for the last step. All I have to do is reassemble my pen and fill it up with ink. So for this, the cartridge clicks into the back of the pen, and it's supposed to like literally click. It was not clicking, so I was worried that like something had happened. So I just got a bit of tissue paper to try and clean out around in there, which didn't really help. These things, it takes a lot more pressure to push them together than like I'm often comfortable with pushing with, because I think of the fountain pens as quite delicate, but you do have to sort of press it in quite hard. But we got there eventually. We got it to click right in, and the cartridge was eventually secured in the nib. So with the cartridge back in, you can see me reaching for the body of the pen here, like, oh, let me put the pen back together, but then I remember that I'm actually supposed to fill that, and you have to do that with the cartridge exposed, because this cartridge uses a screw method to draw up the air, so obviously you need to have access to the cartridge to draw it up. You just screw it down, stick it in the ink, stick it all the way in the ink, and screw it back up, and it will draw the ink up with it and give me a nice well of ink so that I don't have to dip my pen every night when I want to write something. Clean it off a little bit on the side of the jar. I always like to do just to like avoid wasting ink, and then clean it off on some paper towel. Whenever you're working with fountain pens, it is a good idea to have paper towel very close at hand, because spills happen, and they happen quickly, and they get messy even faster than that. The body of the pen screws right back onto the nib of the pen, and then we have a fully functional fountain pen that I can write with. And that's it. So I hope you enjoyed, and as always, if you did, please like and subscribe, because I will keep making videos as long as you'll keep watching them.